Welcome to HSBC Build and Grow, a series that focuses on managing finance for business continuity. As financials takes center stage in business continuity conversations, your story together with HSBC is proud to present this series, featuring some of the finest minds in the ecosystem to help businesses leverage the financial ingenuity, perspective, and insights from these experts to power their own journey, their own continuity. Naya, thank you so much for joining and from Mumbai, which is completely locked down right now and still. Tell me, what is this time for your business, for Baby Chakra? What is happening right now?
So, Shraddha, lots is happening. I think it's an exciting time. It's an unprecedented time. And I think that word has been used a bunch of times now. But it's definitely an unprecedented time for all companies. And I think it's no exception for Baby Chakra as well, right?
Hmm.
We started off the year, the calendar year, thinking we'd go a certain journey. And I think we've had some interesting twists and turns and bumps along the way. But then, that is what we all sign up for as entrepreneurs, right?
Yeah.
I think I think two things that are really interesting for us is that Baby Chakra has always been a companion for families on parenting, pregnancy, fertility, childcare, right? And the focus of the conversations has always been around health, wellness, nutrition, immunity, fertility, all of these topics. So I think we've just seen a massive bump in just these conversations, right? And I think that's been extremely exciting because I keep on telling my team we're at a time when we used to have to evangelize people about the importance of these topics, and now you have the Prime Minister of India basically going out and saying build your immunity, eat healthy, take care of yourself, stay safe, practice like hygiene, right? So we
Yeah.
have this amazing, I think, movement that's happening that's providing us personally a lot of, I think, strong tailwinds. The second thing that's happened is I think we're seeing a very strong inflection point on all things digital, right? And I think especially on the healthcare ecosystem, that digital transformation is extremely exciting. And just to give you a sense, right? I mean, we work a lot with doctors, with HCPs, and with pharma companies, and having them sort of interact with our parent base and our communities, and to help families make like good choices, right? And over the last 3 months, we've had an influx of doctors actually wanting to work with Baby Chakra. So instead of us going out and knocking their doors and saying, do you want to work with us? They are coming in and saying, hey, how can we work together? Right. So
Wow.
we've actually been creating a bunch of very interesting solutions for both sort of doctor engagement, patient retention, patient engagement, and also sort of doctors who just generally understand how this ecosystem of parents is really thinking and analyzing this space. So yeah, I mean,
Wow.
absolutely extremely exciting times.
Wow. Wow. Very, very happy, very encouraging. Very happy to hear this. And it's so, so encouraging. Tell me, Naya, one of the things I think you'd owe, complete credit for you and your team is that you've been able to build a community. You've been able to build a very distinct, strong community through Baby Chakra. Tell me, what has it meant to build a community? Because it's not easy, it's
Yeah.
very tough, and and it takes a lot. So tell us, if you have to look back and say, okay, these are some of the things that led to this in such a wonderful way, which you guys were able to do.
I mean, Shraddha, given that you have built probably the largest community of entrepreneurs, I mean, I think you would relate to sort of what it takes to
Yeah.
build out communities, right? But I think there are three very distinct, maybe as I introspect, I think three very distinct sort of lessons, if you will, or sort of insights, if
Yeah.
you will, I took away. Right. So there is, first of all, I think there's no one way to build a community. I think it depends on who you're building the community for. Right. So, very early on, we were in this rat race of user numbers, badhana hai, get all the users, dow mouse, badhao. And, eventually we look back and we looked at this analysis. We're like, what are we building? Because we're not a social network, right? We're a
Yeah.
companion to families. We need to be meaningful to them at the point of interaction with them and the point of engagement with them. And we should stand for credibility and trust, right?
Yeah.
So I think that really was a very big, I think almost like an aha moment, Shraddha, for us. And I think it was one of those moments where you kind of step out of this treadmill that every entrepreneur is running off at a certain time and look at your company and what you're building and who are you building for and what does value mean there,
Yeah.
right? So I think that was one big insight. And I think the moms community or the parents community is exactly that. It's not a community which, I mean, frankly, it's a very large play. There's no doubt
Yeah.
about it. Every third family in India pretty much has a child below 5, right? So it's a
Yeah.
very large play. But the point is not that. The point is it's not a Dao Mao game. It's a game of at the point when you're engaging them, are they really trusting you, right?
Yeah.
And I believe saying Baby Chakra was my companion through this very critical point in time. So that's the first insight. I think I'll just like, I've been thinking about this as well. I've had time to think about this finally, right? I think the second thing that I think we realized was that community is also a factor of its who is that community, right? And what creates trust. And we realized, of course, having, it's like you walk into a party, you look around and you're like, okay, this person's also there, that person's also there. This party will be fun and will be good and will be trustworthy. I can spend the entire evening and the night in this party, right? So very similarly, we identified those folks, who create trust. And of course, one was the other parents. That's a given. You come in, you see parents engaging, not asking anonymous questions. They're actually asking, divulging their identity, asking very sensitive questions. So you're like, oh, this is a trustworthy, safe
Yeah.
platform for me. But importantly, they're also very more traditional nomenclatures of trust, like doctors, right? So I think the whole doctor piece is something we picked up of the last year, where doctors are now coming in. And when a parent walks in and says, "Arey, doctors are spending time on this platform, kuch to hai," right? I
Huh.
think that immediately creates a bonding and a self of like, trust and all of this other piece, right? And I think the third piece, which I think is very given, is, a companion or a community is like knowing you intimately, right? That's what really creates that bond.
Yeah.
And, I think very early on, again, something we worked hard on and we're seeing the benefits of it play out today is the personalization to each family who uses us, right? So it's not like a one size fits all solution.
Yeah.
You come
Mm.
in, we take a lot of data from you upfront, a lot of implicit, explicit sort of insights about you that we sort of use to sort of personalize the experience of Baby Chakra along the way, right? And I think that really creates community. So I think those are the three things I sort of, I've been also thinking about this. I'm like, what's really working? So I think these
Yeah.
three things are really sort of working for us.
I have huge respect for what you've built, because it sounds like we all know it's a very large community. We all know that it's a very valuable community from a business perspective also, but also it's a very fluid community, right? And just getting them together and building a very cohesive, distinct and personalized platform is not easy. It's not
Yeah.
easy, and you've done that. Naiyya, the other thing I wanted to talk to you about is that I was reading that you're starting some community-led commerce on the
Um,
platform.
so I don't know how that's been represented. It's not necessarily community-led commerce. It's actually community created. So I'll tell you what, maybe that context has been nicely sort of twisted and sort of interpreted to be, right, as usual. So basically, Shraddha, we as a companion to families, right, we have to basically, solve their problems and we have
Huh.
to help them make the right choice at the right time, right? And of course, one of the big problems we're solving is the context of what to do with your child at what point in time, how to take care of yourself, what to eat, getting the right care, etc. Right? That's the digital sort of platform of care that we've created, the ecosystem of care that we've created for each family, right? But the more we dug, and it was like digging and trying to understand what do our users really need, and we were like, listen, on the phone we found a solution, emotionally we found a solution, but actually in their houses we also need to create solutions, right?
Ah.
So basically what parents told us, and this was really crazy, Shraddha, and I think that's again been a big, like, I think I've learned to respect, I think what we do a lot more because of that. In November last year, right, we were looking and a lot of parents told us that they needed products around sort of hygiene and sort of taking care of the child. And there were no products that exist in the market, for instance, which were baby safe and child safe around sanitizers, hand washes, fruit and vegetable washes. This is in November, Shraddha, mind you, before all this COVID sort of hit us, right? And so we started formulating this. We did about, bit of inventory financing, formulated this, and we launched actually in the first week of March before, again, COVID pretty much hit India. If you remember, the 7th, 8th of March was when everything started, like the alarm started blaring and
Yeah.
thinking,
Yeah.
we went into lockdown, right? So first week of March, like first March we launched, and like literally in 3 weeks, we were out of stock. We had stocked up for 3 months. We were out of stock in 3 weeks, right?
Wow.
And these products, the reason I give credit to the reason they work is because we created them with communities. So our
Ah.
mothers actually from November, December, January, February were actually working with us. Doctors were working with us and saying these formulations, this branding, this pricing, this positioning, this sort of fragrance, these ingredients, this packaging, right? This is how I'd like to distribute it. So I think those were, I think, one of those aha moments again for us where we were like, this is what we are building, right? Really creating solutions with the community for the community.
So you brand it as Baby Chakra products?
Yeah, so Shraddha, right now it's Baby Chakra products because, it was an experiment. It was like, hey, can we,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
it sounds like it's a problem. Can we solve it, right? And I think we started off by saying, okay, what do we solve for? And we had all these names, right? And the community actually came back saying, why don't you just call it BabyChakra, because we know the name and it's the
Yeah.
easiest way to launch. But honestly, going forward, I do think there will be some areas, again, based on insights, based on conversations with experts and communities, which will require a lot more deeper I think involvement, and therefore the micro brands that we can create as a result will also reflect in the names, right? So the name need
Yeah.
not, like for a mom, if you're creating something, or for a certain other like problem statement, you're creating something, maybe BabyChakra is not the most appropriate name.
No, but it's a nice name, BabyChakra. It's a nice
I'm
name.
glad you like it. It was the only .com available with baby in it at that point in time, so we took it.
No, but it's very distinct, no, BabyChakra.
It is. It is.
Yeah. What, according to you, Naiyya, as an entrepreneur, you think gives you a very distinct advantage in this space?
I think again it goes back to the fundamentals, right, Shradha? I mean, it's like looking around and saying, "Oh, there's so many amazing publications that cover entrepreneur stories, right?" But there's something special about your story, right? I mean, all of us pretty much started off our journey. I remember moving back from Boston, and one of the reasons I moved back from Boston was because of your story. I was reading your stories, and I was like, "Wow, there's so much amazing stuff happening back in India." Yeah, but it's true, right? So there's a special connect, there's a special sort of resonance of the brand, right? So I think that's one thing, and I can't quantify it, I can't qualify it. Like, there's no way to describe it, right? But
Yeah.
there is a distinct, I think, trust, belief, I think love that I've seen our families have for BabyChakra, right? And I mean, I gave you the example that we launched on Amazon, for instance, on a private label, right? And we were sold out in 3 weeks. So we called up the users, and the not users, but the customers, right? I never say customer. That's why it's an alien concept to me. But we called them up and said, why do you buy it? Right? Because we
Uh,
hadn't done any marketing, right? We've done nothing. And they were like, because it's BabyChakra,
uh,
right? So there's something so interesting and so differentiated about, and I've learned to respect it a lot more now, like about the brand. And I think that's a big differentiation, right? Which you can't quantify, you can't qualify. No amount of technology can replace that. I mean,
yeah,
it
yeah,
doesn't matter, right?
yeah, yeah,
So I
yeah,
think
yeah.
that's the first piece, right? I think that's the biggest piece, I think, that differentiates us. And of course, the idea is to keep on building these relationships of trust and partnerships that create more. I think the second piece, I think, that differentiates us is, I think, when you look across the whole product, you look across the entire sort of experience of BabyChakra, it's all centered around you as an individual, and I keep on saying that. I think that relevance and personalization is key. A lot of it is created by, of course, our tech stack and the algos that learn along the way. But a lot of it is also just created by the fact that we just worked and heard so many mothers, like millions of mothers of the last couple of years. So we kind of like intuitively like sort of predict what they need, right? And I think that experience is very, very differentiated.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Somewhere I think there should be a huge premium and quantification to what you were saying. Like, and I think we both recognize that trust and care and empathy and genuine authenticity of the brand, because I think that it stands the test of time, if
Yeah.
one can say. What are some of the things that you're planning now? It's a very different world that we are living in. So tell me some of the key learnings that you've had as a business in the last few months, and what are some of the things that you're planning in the current new normal, if one may say.
So, I think as a business, I think, and for all of us, it's been an interesting time, right? It's been a challenging time because I
Yeah,
think there were certain, expectations on how the revenue run rate would go. And, surprise, surprise, it's COVID, right? So everything is kind of like a different way. And I think there's certain opportunities that open up which you didn't anticipate. And you're like, wow, this could be an amazing way for me to grow, right?
yeah.
So I think over the last 3-4 months as a team, we've done a lot of introspection, right? And I think two avenues for us open up very, very strongly. The first avenue is to continue building on our relationships with doctors and HCPs, right? I think
Mm,
that is a no-brainer. And I think, given that they are gravitating towards us, plus we've been able to do a couple of very strategic partnerships, which facilitate scaling that out
mm,
quite rapidly, right?
mm,
I think that's a no-brainer. It adds a lot of value to the community of parents as well. It adds a lot of value to the HCPs as well, right? So I
mm,
think, that is something we definitely want to over-index and sort of and grow out. And I think that's a
mm,
great way to also grow out the community, right? In many ways. The second thing we're looking at is, given that we'd gone down a certain journey, and we've learned to respect our data and insights a lot more in terms of product co-creation with our communities, right? The physical product co-creations. We certainly want to continue going down that journey. I think there were certain products in the pipeline which we're pushing out for later, certain ones we're bringing forward, right? Given the environment we are in, given, multiple things like the proposition, the pricing, the distribution strategy, etc., right? So I think that's the other piece that we've sort of, like kind of done a bit of like, again, an introspection, a bit of a retrospective on. But I think that journey is very clear. So as a business, I think our two sort of lines of growth and revenue and monetization are extremely, extremely clear for us, right? And I think that's the way forward. And fortunately, I think even over this period, there is a third, there is a vertical which was the brands vertical. We were working with all the top brands in the space, pharma companies, FMCGs, helping them with sort of getting, access, like, and just conversations with their consumers, or getting sort of consumer insights, etc., which in the period of May was a little bumpy, because even brands were trying to figure out what is happening in the ecosystem, right? But I think all that's back on track. And I think, brands realize that this is a great time. And I think digital is the only way and the best way today to build even a more solid relationship with your constituents, right? So I think that's
Yeah.
working well for us.
I want to ask you, as an entrepreneur, as someone who's built this business, what if you had to look today, and we have the time right now to reflect a bit, if you had to look at your own journey so far and say, okay, these are some of the things, more or less, I got it right.
Mhm.
And these were some of the things which I wouldn't have learned had I not made the journey.
I mean, so many things, Shradha. I think that
Yeah.
would require a whole conversation for both of us, right? Separately.
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
I mean, but I do want to call out because, and I don't think we talk enough about it. And I've realized it matters. I mean, I do want to call out that it matters that I'm a woman. It matters, therefore, the journey I have taken. And, it's no use sort of being an ostrich and hiding my head in the sand and not acknowledging that being an important piece of my journey.
Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, I think, and I've talked about this in the past, but I think one instance I definitely want to call out is both the support as well as sort of, not the lack of support, but I think the skepticism I faced because of
Yeah.
my gender, right? And my ability to build something really meaningful, large, and valuable, right? So I think if I look back, what have I learned from it is to have more belief in myself and to surround myself with people who believe in me, right? As a
I
result,
agree.
right? I think the one biggest, like the biggest takeaway I would take away
Yes.
from my journey, right? And I tell all
Yeah.
my teammates, I tell all my, entrepreneur friends who are starting off now, just believe in yourself, because you know your stuff better than anyone, and you know yourself better than anyone does out there, right?
Yeah.
So, I think that's for me,
But that's also something we have to go through the process and then
that
only
is
learn.
true. It's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
that whatever, refining by fire, whatever that
Yeah.
phrase is, right? You have to be
Yeah.
tempered by fire to realize you're sharp as steel or
Yeah.
whatever. You have to think like that. So I think that's the first big insight, and like I think even acknowledgement I've had along the way. I think the second, really, I mean, and I know this is so cliche, but really, I think team matters so much. And when I talk about team, it's not only about the operating team and the team that's building with you, but also your team of investors, your team of partners, your team of well-wishers, right? A team of fellow entrepreneurs who are peers to you, who are building with you in this journey. The conversations you have with them keep you sane,
Yeah.
right? So your team, like the team that's really working with you to make you successful, to champion you, to talk about you, right?
Yeah.
It's critical. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think these are the two things I'd really take away.
And if you had to tell to all the young, new entrepreneurs just getting started, one from something that you wish you had got it right and someone would have told you, besides the belief.
So, honestly, I do think like way back in 2017, 2018, we were pushed, and I'm fully responsible for that push. Like I told you, right? I mean, this whole thing about just scale, right?
All of
I mean,
us, all of us.
right? It was all of us. But I mean, the point is, I got sucked into it, right? And I will call it out in the open, right? This whole thing about scale, scale, scale for the sake of numbers, for the sake of like just showing growth, right?
Yeah.
I think, and it always felt a little alien to me. But, I was like, no, maybe I'm just like, maybe I'm wrong, right? Because
Yeah.
everyone's right. Everyone can't be wrong. So maybe I'm wrong.
Everyone is so confident around it. Right, right,
Exactly,
right.
right? I mean, so I think that is the one thing I think, like, in future, this is one instance, right? In future, I'm sure there'll be like 5 other instances like this, right? Which are like, and I think always staying true to your, like, what you believe will create value, being open, being flexible, being like listening, right?
Yeah.
But then filtering and then being true to what you believe creates value and creates genuine value for
Yeah.
who you're building for.
Wow,
Mm.
wow. It just, it feels like I'm talking to myself. For everyone watching this, Naya, if you have to say, what's the big, big dream that you are seeing with Baby Chakra?
So I mean, Shraddha, the idea, and I moved back to India, and I've spent like, I think probably like, and my team has spent the best years of their lives building this, right? And I think that the vision here is to really, really be a companion to families in India, and then over time across the world, right? Through their journey of what is probably the most critical life stage you face as a human being, right? The journey of fertility, the journey of pregnancy, the
Yeah,
journey of childcare, because it is a journey where, I mean, you kind of go back to the roots of what it means to be an individual, to have a certain construct where you are changing, right?
yeah,
Life as it changes. And especially for women, I think it changes a lot. So it's important to preserve your identity, but it's also important to acknowledge the change, and therefore to have someone to support you through that change. So if we can
yeah.
be a companion to families across India, raise the next generation of happy, healthy Indian moms and kids, and then scale it across the world, I mean, I'd go to sleep and I'd say peak potential achieved.
Wow. Wow. And we all hope that you achieve this, because in your success would be the success of the country, of people, of mothers, right? Of families. Naya, tell us about your fundraising journey, because you've built a very distinct brand and you have also got good investors. Tell us what excited them, because, and again, I'm asking this to you for all the potential opportunities which entrepreneurs would be looking at, and people would be looking at raising money, and they can learn from you.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think, Shraddha, I talked about this a little bit earlier when I said your team is most critical. And when I talked about team, I meant the team of investors and partners as well, who believe in you, right? And who believe in
Yeah.
what you're looking to build, right? I think, the promise of building out something for parents in India when I was starting off was a very sort of obtuse promise, right? No one really understood. And they were, I mean, people were looking at me and you've come back after this amazing set of experiences, professional, education wise, to build out like what, a blog? Like, and I was like, even if it's a blog and it's successful and creating the impact it is, I'll be very happy. Right? I mean, but you had to, like, you to really sort of evangelize. And I think today the
Yes.
opportunity needs no evangelization, right?
Yes.
So I think for a lot of entrepreneurs out there, you might be facing walls, you might be facing sort of, you might be hitting your head against the wall saying, I see the opportunity no one else does. But guess what? I mean, if you're seeing an opportunity, and if, I mean, of course, you're able to quantify it, you're able to sort of triangulate smartly with your user base, and, like, look at this objectively as well with a few people you trust, and it exists. I mean, those are the opportunities really worth going after. You will face situations where there will be, counterintuitive bets that you as an entrepreneur really believe in. And I think that's really where the value can be created. And hence, to look for people who support you in some counterintuitive bets, you have to see people who've taken counterintuitive decisions in their lives, right? So,
Yeah.
I've been lucky. I mean, we have amazing angels as well. Like, for instance, Anand Chandrasekharan, Anant Narayanan, Maninder Gulati. I mean, they've all sort of been through a very counterintuitive set of decisions in their lives, right? They've seen these bets play out in their portfolio companies at scale. And apart from that, of course, like our large institutional investors, the funds, right? So I think that's really when you go out and you seek partners in investors, I think you should look for people who maybe been through counterintuitive journeys themselves and therefore able to spot large opportunities with you.
And you've done that. And congratulations to you, Naya. Last, to all the entrepreneurs as of today, because everyone, all of us are facing very, very difficult times, right? Like all of us, it is hard, it is depressing, and it is very, very uncertain. As an entrepreneur who is dealing with it, and is continues to resiliently smile and move through it, and I feel so energy, and I'm asking you because I feel energy, with our conversation, and I feel your positivity. What would you say, what are you doing mentally, emotionally, to keep yourself in this shape, and what would you tell to entrepreneurs?
Right now, I think when things get tough, I have an approach, right, which is to take one day at a time, right?
Yeah.
And I think the beauty of entrepreneurship and being an entrepreneur is the next day things change. Right? I mean, because they just do. I mean, actually, it's for both better and for worse, to be honest. But like they change
Yeah.
nonetheless, right? And I think you have to, like, before becoming an entrepreneur, and through the journey of entrepreneurship, I think over time you find increasing comfort with that change,
Yes.
right? So even the worst days after a bit say this too shall pass, and even the best days you're like this too shall pass,
Yeah.
right? So I think that moment for me has come over the last year, because before that I used to get very perturbed. Now I'm a little bit more, I think, with a little bit more equanimity. No, Shraddha, I think that for me has been you get it, right?
I
So,
get
so
it.
I think that for me has been the big, like, sort of, and I think I'm so grateful that's happened, right? And I think the second thing that's kept me a lot centered, apart of course, my team and sort of the, the fun we have over Zoom when we are sort of brainstorming, etc. I had a child about 15 months back, right?
Wow.
And her name is
Congrats.
Arya. Yeah, she's a joy, right? And I think when I look at her, I just feel like it's not like my life revolves around her at all. I'm not one of those mothers, to be honest. And I don't know if it's bad for business that I'm saying it so loudly and openly, right? But I am someone who really believes that, for her to be happy, I need to be happy, right?
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
so I think, I have had to, therefore, for her and for myself, find ways to what gives me joy and happiness, over index on those, and to kind of outsource the rest that don't give me joy and happiness for the most part,
Wow.
as much as I can have it happen. So yeah, I think that's just my, not advice, but it's my experience and
No, no, but
philosophy.
this is so powerful. This is so powerful. Absolutely authentic, very powerful, and so very true. I think all of us can take this. I'm not saying that we have to like imbibe it, we have to process this, what you're saying, because it's very, very powerful that we will be happy, then only we can make anyone happy around us. So, thank you.